Fired just 3 days before retirement after 29 years of service, I discovered an amazing new path. Bob Thompson stood in his factory, surrounded by the familiar sounds of machinery and the smell of oil. Just 3 days from his retirement party, excitement bubbled within him, ready to be shared with his grandchildren over fishing lines and garden tools. He envisioned afternoons spent with his beloved late father's garden, a lush tribute filled with blooms and memories. But the world he knew crumbled in an instant. "We have to let you go, Bob," the words echoed in his mind, drowning out his dreams like a dark cloud over the sun. The shock left him reeling. Over 29 years dedicated to the factory, forming bonds with co-workers and participating in town events. Suddenly, his identity collapsed into nothingness. As he drove home, a lump formed in his throat, threatening to spill tears. He caught a glimpse of Marilyn's anxious face, her smile faltering as she tried to reassure him. The weight of their son Tim's college bills rocketed into the forefront of his thoughts, twisting his insides tighter with every anxious breath. Days blurred into each other, a routinized dam of despair. Bills became monsters in the shadows, gnawing at the seams of their life. Bob felt adrift, yearning to escape the suffocating dread. One morning, while taking a solitary walk, he stumbled across the neighbor's woodworking shop. Curiosity pulled him in. Inside, he found a symphony of whirring and cutting, all buzzing with passion. Bob marveled at the intricate pieces being crafted, energy crackling in the air. At a town hall meeting that followed, the room buzzed with tension. One after another, voices shared their stories of unexpected layoffs and broken dreams. It ignited something deep within Bob, a sense of solidarity he hadn't felt before. When he stood up to speak, the emotions roared. "We all deserve better," he proclaimed, the weight of his despair melting into something powerful and collective. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the townsfolk rallied around him, Bob felt a surge of hope, invigorating him anew. This felt like his life's second act, one that revolved less around a paycheck and more around purpose. Seizing the moment, he proposed a community project, remodeling the local community center bathroom, a humble space used by so many. With every cheerful interaction and planning session, he could feel the weight of his old identity shift. On the day of the launch, Bob stood among his supportive neighbors. They laughed and shared stories, breathing life into what once felt like dreams fading away. In that bright moment, surrounded by capability and the spirit of community, he realized he was finally on a path, one not defined by corporate chains but forged by collective strength. Just as hope erupted within him, a call came through from his former employer, an offer that had the potential to twist everything anew. Could he return to the comfort of familiarity or step into the exhilarating, uncharted waters ahead? The choice loomed before him, heavy and electric with uncertainty. Bob's heart raced as he stared at his phone, the screen lighting up with his former boss's name. The familiar voice on the other end sounded filled with regret. "Bob, we'd like to bring you back. We realize now how valuable you are to the team." A mixture of emotions washed over him: surprise, anger, and a flicker of hope. It would be so easy to accept, to slip back into the comfort of his old routine. The paycheck, the predictable hours, the familiar faces, they all beckoned with a warmth that felt almost magnetic. But then, he thought about the laughter shared with his neighbors as they worked on the community center, the feeling of purpose blooming inside him like the roses in his father's garden. "Thank you, but I need to think about it," Bob finally replied, his voice steady despite the storm brewing within. After the call ended, the quiet of the house enveloped him like a heavy blanket. He paced, feeling the weight of every step as memories flooded in, moments with co-workers who had become friends, struggles shared during tough times, and the bitter taste of unfair dismissal. The lines blurred between familiarity and newfound direction. He caught a glimpse of Marilyn, watching him with concern as she folded laundry. "What's wrong, Bob?" she asked softly as she placed a shirt down that he ran a hand through his hair. "They want me back," he uttered, the words tasting bittersweet. "But I'm not sure if that's what I want anymore." Marilyn's eyes searched his face, trying to unearth his turmoil. "What do you mean? You've dedicated nearly 3 decades to them." "It's a job, security." "It's not just that," he interrupted, the urgency rising in his voice. "I was in a place where I felt lost, and now I've found something more meaningful. I want to help our community, not just clock in and out. I want to build rather than fix machines." Marilyn's frown melted into a soft smile, her eyes filled with understanding. "Then maybe this is your chance to really choose a different path. You've always talked about wanting to make a difference." Bob took a deep breath, feeling the tension begin to ease. He wanted to believe in his newfound purpose, but the fear of financial instability loomed, casting shadows on the joy that had burst forth. The paradox hung between them like a fragile thread. What if this all falls apart? What if I can't provide for us? Marilyn stepped closer, taking his hands in hers. "We'll figure it out together. Remember, we once jumped into uncertainty together before, and it led to so many wonderful things. Just promise me you won't close this door without thinking about it." Her encouragement sparked something within Bob, a glimmer of courage ignited by unwavering support. Days passed, and as he continued his involvement with the community, ideas blossomed. Perhaps a woodworking class for kids, or creating items to sell at the farmer's market, all while benefiting the town. His imagination felt electric. But how could he turn these thoughts into reality? With each project he tackled, Bob felt more alive than ever, intertwined with the lives around him. While emotions ran high following his layoff, he couldn't ignore the magnetic pull of uncertainty that still lingered. The day arrived when he needed to respond to the job offer. He stood at the crossroads, staring at the phone that held his future in its balance. Leaning against the kitchen counter, heart thumping loudly, he finally realized a choice lay before him, fraught with both fear and uncharted possibilities. What if he took the leap? What awaited him if he dropped his past and embraced the unknown? As he lifted his phone to dial, a familiar voice echoed in his mind, the future a vivid tapestry yet to be woven. The moment of truth arrived. Bob stared at the phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. For a heartbeat, time stood still. Memories rushed through him, those final days at the plant when he didn't know if he'd cry, scream, or just fade away. But now, standing there with Marilyn beside him, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. "I need to do this," he whispered. Before he could second-guess himself, Bob pressed the call button, listening to the ringing tone with a mix of dread and exhilaration. "Hello." His former boss's voice came through, brisk and formal. "Hi, it's Bob," he said, his throat tight. "Thank you for the offer, but I won't be coming back. I've decided to pursue other opportunities." There was a pause, then a distant sigh. "I see. Well, if you change your mind, thank you, but I won't." He hung up, relief washing over him as the finality of his decision set in. Marilyn wrapped her arms around him. "You did it." A smile broke on Bob's face, a mix of joy and disbelief. "I really did it." With the phone call behind him, the world outside his window felt brighter. He stepped out into the sunshine, a fresh breeze kissed his skin, and he felt alive, connected to everything. Days turned into weeks, and Bob dove headfirst into his community projects. The kids from the neighborhood came over for woodworking lessons every Saturday. Their laughter echoed in the backyard, where piles of scrap wood turned into creative masterpieces. Each little moment pulsed with a vitality he'd missed for years. One Saturday, a small girl named Chloe showed him a wobbly birdhouse she had built almost entirely by herself. Her eyes sparkled with pride. "Look, Mr. Bob. Can you help me paint it?" He knelt beside her, the weight of the world falling away. "Of course, Chloe. Let us make it the brightest birdhouse in the world. As they painted, he found himself reflecting on what it felt like to give joy, rather than just to receive a paycheck. The tension around providing for his family stirred within him now, but it started to morph into something lighter. Everything felt different, alive, and full of promise. Word spread about Bob's woodworking class, and soon families stood outside his gate, eager to join. By the end of the month, he had a small group of regulars, parents and children, all coming together to create, to connect, to thrive as a community. As excitement built, Bob realized he had to take a leap of faith again. They needed a proper space to work. "Marilyn," he said one evening, "what if we held a community fundraiser? We could rent a space, maybe even start a cooperative shop." Her eyes widened, then sparkled with enthusiasm. "That's brilliant. We could ask local businesses to sponsor, and hold a bake sale. I can already picture it. We can make this happen, Bob." But amid the excitement, a flicker of doubt danced in his mind. What if they couldn't raise the funds? What if no one showed up? In the following days, frustration seeped in like a cold winter wind. They worked tirelessly, printed flyers, and spread the word, but every step felt uphill. Finally, the night of the fundraiser arrived. The community center buzzed with chatter and laughter, vibrant colors of decorations hung overhead, but as Bob surveyed the room, nervousness gripped him. Did they have enough support? Would anyone show? Marilyn squeezed his hand. "Look around. They're here for you. Everything you've built, everything you've shared, it matters." As he took the stage, his heart hammered. What if they didn't respond? "Thank you all for coming," he began, voice shaking. "This isn't just about raising money. It's about building something together. A place where we can create, where our children can learn skills that last a lifetime." Just then, a cheer rose from the back of the room. People clapped, and the noise enveloped him, pulling him into a warm embrace of community spirit. Tears stung his eyes. This was it. He was free. He chose this path, the one illuminated not just by hope, but by a deeper purpose. But as excitement filled the room, he felt the weight of tomorrow's unknowns. Would the enthusiasm last? Bob looked out at the crowd gathered, so filled with light and creativity. He could feel it, the pulse of something enormous waiting just beneath the surface. This journey had just begun, but what would it demand of him next? The answer hung in the air, a vibrant tapestry woven with dreams, doubts, and determination. What awaited at the end of this brave new path? The lights in the community center dimmed, and Bob felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. As he looked out at the sea of faces, friends, neighbors, kids, all united by a common purpose, hope bloomed within him. Just then, a wave of applause swept through the room. People were genuinely excited, and that energy filled the air like enthusiasm at a summer barbecue. "Let us make this happen," came a shout from the back. It was Mr. Jenkins, the local firefighter, waving his arm high. The crowd erupted in cheers again. Bob's heart soared. This was it, this was their moment. As people began to mingle, Bob and Marilyn moved around, chatting and collecting donations. The initial nervousness faded into a warm glow of community spirit. Every dollar mattered, every voice echoed hope, and every shared smile meant they were on the right path. Then came an unexpected voice from the side. "Bob." It was Kelly, a woman from the neighborhood known for her vibrant baked goods. "I'm here with some cookies and a surprise." Intrigued, Bob raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She grinned and held up a check for $200. "I wanted to support the shop. My kids can't stop talking about your classes. They love coming here every week." Tears pricked at his eyes as he accepted the check. This wasn't just a donation, it was community support. This was what he had worked for, what he had hoped for. Marilyn caught his eye, and they shared a moment of understanding. They both knew this was just the beginning. With each moment, their dream of a community shop felt more tangible. As the night continued, laughter and music filled the air. The bake sale was a tremendous hit. Children swarmed the table like bees to flowers, eyes wide with delight at the tasty treats. Adults shared stories, some laughing about school days, others expressing their struggles and aspirations. It was in those genuine connections that Bob realized something profound. This dynamic community wasn't built on just woodworking or fundraising. It was about opening doors, creating a safe haven for everyone, and collectively nurturing dreams. But as the night wore on, Bob noticed a few familiar faces at the edge, observing rather than participating. They looked hesitant, as if grappling with whether they belonged. Bob's heart tugged. He remembered what it felt like to stand on the outside looking in. "Hey, you two!" he called out, beckoning them closer. They hesitated but eventually made their way through the crowd. "What's your name?" he asked the taller one. "It's Sam. We moved here a few months back," he muttered, looking down. His eyes darted nervously. "Well, Sam, welcome. Join us. We'd love to have you in our classes. This is a space for everyone," Bob said, beaming. Marilyn chimed in, "And we're constantly looking for new ideas and help. Your skills might be just what we need." As the trio talked, the initial trepidation on Sam's face faded. He began to smile, chuckling at Bob's silly jokes, and soon, he was pulling his friend along, connecting with others nearby. Just as Bob felt a sense of accomplishment, a flash of fear tightened in his chest. What if, despite all the good vibes, it was short-lived? "This is great," he said to Marilyn later. "But what if it doesn't last? What if people stop coming?" Marilyn squeezed his hand, silencing his worries with a steady gaze. "Remember how it felt to call your boss? You got through that. You're building something here, Bob. Just like those birdhouses, you're creating a foundation. It won't crumble unless you stop believing in it." Her words rang like a bell in his chest. He thought about his journey, the hesitant first steps, the choice to walk away from the life that no longer served him. But just then, the lights flickered, and everyone turned to the doors. A group of strangers stood at the entrance. They were dressed in work clothes, dust-covered and tired, but their eyes glinted with curiosity. Bob's heart raced as they stepped into the warm glow of the community center, bringing with them a gust of cool air and uncertainty. "Are we too late to join in?" one of them asked, a hopeful smile breaking through their exhaustion. In that moment, Bob realized that this journey wasn't just about him anymore. It was about welcoming others, lifting each other up, and building a future together. But as the night went on, he wondered what would it truly take to keep this flame alive. The answer was just out of reach, but it was clear the road ahead was only getting more exciting. Would it be enough to meet the expectations they had forged together? The crowd parted as the newcomers stepped inside. Bob couldn't help but admire how their worn clothes clung to them like armor, each smudge telling a story of hard work, resilience, and life changes. The warmth of the community center felt like a stark contrast to their uncertain smiles. "Not at all," Bob called out, his enthusiasm spilling over. "We're just getting started. Why don't you come over and join us?" He received a nod from the taller one, who stepped forward. "I'm Jake, and this is my sister, Lily. We just moved to the area, thought we might check it out." "Is this really all for a woodworking shop?" "Yes," Bob responded, his heart humming with excitement. "We're gathering support for a community woodworking space where everyone can learn and share their skills. You can make birdhouses, furniture, anything. It's a place for creativity and connection." Lily's eyes sparkled. "That sounds incredible. We've never had anything like that before. There's so much talent in our neighborhood, but no place to showcase it." "Exactly. It's not just about woodworking," Marilyn chimed in. "It's also about building friendships and helping each other realize our dreams. Would you like to see what we have planned?" As she gestured toward a whiteboard overflowing with ideas and sketches, Bob watched Lily lean in closer. The spark of potential ignited in him. This was how it started. New faces. New ideas. Jake looked around, his posture relaxing as he realized that the trepidation he initially felt was giving way to a sense of belonging. So, how can we help with all this? Big or small, every contribution counts. Bob said, waving his arms dramatically. You can help organize classes, or even bring in your own skills. We want this to be everyone's project. Marilyn nodded eagerly. And we would love your input. The more experience we get, the better this community can grow. Can you feel the energy in here? It's electric. From the corner of the room, Sam was still talking with his friend, now sharing laughter and stories. As others around joined in, the community center became alive in a way that warmed Bob's heart. It was turning into something he had only dreamed of, a safe haven thriving on shared passion and creativity, but just as the atmosphere lifted, Bob caught sight of a group standing outside the main entrance. They appeared hesitant, glancing in but unsure whether to step through the threshold. His heart sank. Were there more like Sam, feeling isolated and unsure? Excuse me a moment, Bob told Jake and Lily, moving toward the door. As he approached, his mind raced with how to reach them. Hey there. You folks want to come in? He called, trying to be as inviting as possible. The nervous glances turned into curious ones when one woman shrugged her shoulders and stepped forward. We heard laughter, she said softly, but we weren't sure what to expect. That's what this is all about, laughter and connection. Bob smiled, waving them in. Join us. We're just a bunch of people who love woodworking and believe in community. No pressure. As they hesitantly stepped inside, he realized this was the magic of the moment. It was like planting seeds in a garden, nourishing them with hope and care. Each person added more color to their shared tapestry. The energy swirled around him, fueled by laughter, music, and new friends. The night carried on, but a lingering worry nagged at his heart. How could they keep this alive when challenges inevitably loomed? As he glanced back at Marilyn, who flashed him a reassuring smile, he caught a glimpse of the door. More people were approaching, and the prospect of a vibrant community was growing beyond what he could have imagined. Bob. A voice cut through his thoughts. It was Kelly, holding the tray of cookies she had brought earlier. Did you see how many donations we raised? This is incredible. Just think, Kelly, he said, feeling the weight of the moment. What's gonna happen when word gets out? We're creating something extraordinary. But was it enough to sustain the energy they had? Would they be able to gather the momentum needed to ensure everyone felt included and valued? As he stared into the crowd, he realized that those questions were mere whispers against the rising chorus of possibility. For the first time in a while, the worry felt light, almost insignificant. But deep down, a thought lingered: could they endure the difficulties that lay ahead, or would the excitement bring with it challenges they hadn't prepared for? Bob shifted nervously, wishing he had all the answers, but he knew one thing: the journey was just beginning. How it would unfold remained to be seen, but he felt hope blooming brightly. Would they be able to turn this moment into a lasting legacy for their community? The chatter in the community center swirled around Bob like a warm hug. Excitement buzzed in the air, and he felt it rising with every new face that entered. His heart swelled with pride. This was what he had envisioned, a gathering rich with imagination and potential. But just as he settled into the moment, a thud broke through the laughter, a sound too heavy and jarring. He turned sharply to see a tall man drop a stack of wooden pieces, sending splinters flying across the floor. The man flushed, embarrassment creeping across his cheeks. Sorry. Sorry. He stammered, kneeling down to hastily gather the pieces. Bob rushed to help him, concern flashing in his mind. Hey, no problem at all, he said, offering a hand. This place is for learning. We're all just figuring things out as we go. The man looked up, surprise melting his embarrassment. Really? You mean it? Absolutely. Bob replied with a chuckle. If we can't make mistakes here, where can we? Everyone's welcome, and we're excited to see what you bring. As they picked up the scattered wood together, Bob felt the man relax. I'm Liam, he said, a hint of a smile breaking through. I used to work in construction. It's been years since I've worked with my hands like this. I saw the flyer for this place and thought, why not? Glad you did. Bob smiled back. You're gonna fit right in. So many skills needed here. Just wait until everyone starts sharing their ideas. A voice called out from behind them. Liam. You all right? A woman with gentle eyes and an easy smile emerged from the crowd, concern etched on her face. Hey, Claire. Just had a little hiccup here, he replied, flashing a broader smile now. The connection felt electric, and Bob watched as their rapport grew. This was what community meant, a network of support that embraced everyone. Mistakes included. As the night rolled on, conversations bloomed like vibrant flowers in spring. Bob checked in with Jake and Lily. They were discussing designs for a new project while sketching ideas on napkins. Laughter filled the halls. Bob made sure to take moments to mingle, feeling the warmth and connection forming all around him, but a shadow lingered in his mind. Would this be enough? Would it be sustainable? The thought gnawed, but he pushed it aside, focusing on the gorgeous tapestry forming before him with each shared story. When he returned to a corner of the room, he caught sight of Kelly again. She was chatting with another newcomer, her animated hands painting pictures in the air. Bob loved how inclusive she made every conversation feel. It hit him then that it wasn't just about skills. It was about people. This was more than a woodworking shop, it was a refuge. Suddenly, a loud thump interrupted his thoughts as the power abruptly flickered, then plunged the room into semi-darkness. The chatter fell silent, replaced by gasps and a murmur of confusion. Bob's heart raced. What was happening? Stay calm, everyone. He called out, his voice steadying him. Let us gather together. We just need to reset the breakers. It's nothing to worry about. People began to shift uncomfortably, their excitement faltering. He felt the weight of their trust pressing down on him. Why don't we share some stories until the lights come back? He smiled brightly, hoping to spark some light in the dark. Who has a favorite memory they want to share? Heads turned slowly, and one by one, hands began to raise. Just then, the lights flickered back to life, illuminating the faces filled with anticipation. In the wake of the clamor, someone whispered, perfect timing. And a wave of laughter spread throughout the room. Relief washed over Bob, but his heart raced with the new rush of energy. As more hands shot up and stories began to flow, Bob realized that even after a setback, hope could shine through. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was a turning point, and he wanted to cling to it. What other surprises lay ahead? Okay, who's first? Bob prompted, eyes sparkling with enthusiasm, and as a familiar voice began to share a tale from years gone by, he wondered, would the stories they shared tonight guide them to overcome the challenges ahead, or lead them down unexpected paths? The air hummed with anticipation as the first storyteller took center stage, breathing life into the room once more. A tall, gray-haired man named George stood confidently, his hands resting on his hips. He smiled warmly at the group, setting the tone for what was to come. This reminds me of my first job at the factory, George began, his voice deep and resonant, drawing everyone's attention like a magnet. I was just 18, full of energy but completely clueless. Laughter erupted from the crowd, easing the previous tension, and Bob felt a sense of unity growing. Tell us more. Someone called out, and George chuckled, clearly encouraged by their enthusiasm. Picture this, he continued, eyes twinkling. I walked in with my best shirt bright pink. The room erupted again, and Bob could see Liam elbowing Claire with playful disbelief. All the other guys were in jeans and work boots, and I was standing there like a flamingo in a barnyard. The foreman took one look at me and burst into laughter. George paused, allowing the story to settle before he delivered the punchline. After that day, I learned a valuable lesson: never ever be afraid to show who you really are, even if it feels like you're stepping into a lioness den. The laughter transformed into applause, and Bob couldn't help but smile. Here was George, a stoic man who had likely spent decades in a gritty factory, bringing lightness and a lesson wrapped in humor. This was exactly the spirit he hoped to foster, a place where vulnerabilities were shared, laughter flourished, and support was a given. One by one, hands rose, offering their own stories. Kelly followed George, her voice bright as she recounted how she built a treehouse for her kids with mismatched wood, random tools, and more love than precision. She laughed as she recalled the crooked walls and how, even with the mess, it became their favorite spot. Slowly the stories wove together like a patchwork quilt. Each shared moment, a piece of someone else's life, stitched into the fabric of the community. Bob felt his heart swell. This was not just a gathering. It was a creation of bonds, each thread strong enough to weather any storm, but amid the joy, a flicker of doubt reared inside him again. What if life's storms were stronger than this community? The lights, the stories, the laughter, it seemed fragile, temporary. Was it realistic to hope they could hold together through the challenges that life threw at them? Naeem, a newcomer with a shyness that melted away in the glow of support, took his turn. I once made a piece of furniture that ended up 4 inches shorter than it should have been, he admitted with a sheepish smile. The room erupted in laughter once again, and Bob felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. As the night wore on and stories spilled like a river, the uncertainty that had nagged at Bob began to transform. There was a unity forming that he hadn't allowed himself to see before, an invisible thread connecting each person to the next. Just as the clock began to tick past 9, a voice cut through the chatter with urgency. "Hey, everyone! I think we're going to have a challenge from the city." The laughter stilled. Bob's heart sank like a stone. The night, so bright with connection, now seemed clouded with a looming threat. "What do you mean?" he asked, brow furrowing. With the community hanging on whispers, he realized that the very fabric of their support might soon be tested. What would they do when challenges came knocking? Would they band together or be torn apart? As the night lingered on, the anticipation bubbled again in a different way. The atmosphere buzzed with questions and possibilities, leaving Bob wondering, was this just the beginning of their journey, or a prelude to the trials ahead? The room felt charged, like the silence before a storm. Bob looked around, searching for reassurance. Faces, once brimming with laughter, now wore expressions of concern. The newcomer, Sarah, stood with a trembling voice. "I heard rumors that the city wants to shut us down," she said, hands shaking slightly. "They think we're not safe, that we need to stop gathering here." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "That can't be right," someone exclaimed, an edge of anger creeping into their tone. Bob's heart raced. How could something so joyous be threatened so suddenly? "What does that mean for us?" a voice quavered from the back. It was Claire, her eyes wide and searching. Murmurs of agreement echoed across the room. Bob stepped forward, feeling a growing sense of responsibility. "Listen, everyone. We can't let fear take hold. We're a community. We've already shared so much with each other tonight. If we stand together, we can face this." But inside, uncertainty gnawed at him. What could they really do against City Hall? They were just a group of people, sharing stories. Would that be enough? "I think we should organize," George suddenly shouted, his voice regaining the energy it had earlier. "We can write letters to the city or attend meetings. We've got to make ourselves heard." Some in the crowd nodded, and others whispered. Hope flickered in Bob's chest like a candle's flame. Still, doubt sat heavy with the scent of fear. What if they don't listen? Naeem's voice cut in, softer this time but heavy with worry. What if they decide we can't meet here anymore? What about the treehouse? Kelly suddenly spoke, her voice rising above the growing tension. Just because it was crooked didn't mean it wasn't loved. We put our hearts into it. A murmur went through the crowd, resonating with Kelly's example. People began talking more urgently, and Bob watched as ideas sparked between them. Where he had seen a single thread of fear, he now noticed a tapestry of resilience weaving together. Expressions turned from worry to determination. "Let us talk to our neighbors," Liam offered. "This is more than just us. It's about the community. We can rally support." As voices blended into a rallying cry, Bob felt an adrenaline rush he hadn't felt in years. The room vibrated with energy, as though they were shaping a tidal wave of change, ready to break against the barriers ahead. The very act of speaking up transformed their fear into something far more powerful: hope. "Everyone!" Bob shouted, raising his hand for silence. "Let us meet again tomorrow night. We'll come up with a plan, a way to fight for our story circle. Together." A rippling wave of agreement echoed through the room. They began to shift, the air no longer thick with doubt but electric with possibility, the flames of hope igniting like a full-blown fire. "Maybe we're stronger than we think," George said, voice calm yet buoyant. "Each story we share, each connection we make, it's a defense against whatever's out there." But even as spirits surged, a sinking thought remained in Bob's heart. What if their fight wasn't enough? Would they be able to hold on to the bonds they formed, or would the pressure from the city tear them apart, revealing the cracks hidden beneath? As they prepared to leave, Bob glanced back at the room filled with determination and fear. He knew tomorrow would reveal their resolve, but deep down he couldn't shake the worry. Would they truly stand strong, or would life's challenges drown out their voices? Tomorrow's meeting loomed in his mind like a shadow as he walked out into the night, leaving him to ponder, how far would they go to protect what they had built together? As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Bob wandered through the quiet streets, his thoughts tangled in a web of worry and excitement. The night air was brisk against his skin, a sharp contrast to the warmth that had enveloped them in the meeting. He replayed the voices in his mind, each one fueled by a shared fuel of passion and determination. Tomorrow's meeting loomed like an approaching storm, swirling with uncertainty. What would they come up with? Would their ideas be enough to shimmer through the shadows cast by the city's decision? He cast a fleeting glance upwards, watching as clouds shuffled across the sky, mirroring his own turbulent thoughts. Bob arrived home and sank into the worn couch, his mind still racing. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He reached for his old notebook, pages yellowed with time and memories. It had been a safe space for his own tales, but now, it felt like a tool for action that he opened it, fingers skimming across the words he'd written long ago, stories he'd shared at the circle. Each tale told of resilience, triumph, and above all, belonging. As he read, a line jumped out: "Our stories make us whole." The line struck at the core of what they had built together. A small spark of hope flickered within him. Could their stories be a shield against the city's scrutiny? The clock ticked on as he jotted down thoughts, ideas intermingled with fears. What if the stories they layered together could become a petition? A tapestry filled with colorful accounts of their gathering, the warmth, support, laughter shared. He imagined their words fluttering like flags, rallying others like them, disconnected but yearning for connection. Each tale a piece of their collective heart. Suddenly, a plan ignited his mind. He would suggest they create a public exhibition, stories displayed like artwork, framed with emotion. We could invite the city, he whispered to himself, the excitement growing. Show them who we are, why we matter. Sleep eluded him as he visualized the doors of the community center opening to the city leaders, their eyes widening as they witnessed their shared experiences. He pictured people wandering through their stories, reading, laughing, maybe even shedding tears. The very idea filled him with hope. He felt the pulse of the community beating in tune with his own heart. Yet that nagging doubt still lingered. Would it be enough to sway the city? Morning broke, and with it came an urgency he hadn't felt in years. He rushed through his routine, fueled by fresh determination. At work, he filled lunch breaks with brainstorming, gathering ideas and sharing plans with anyone who'd listen. Each conversation sparked cascading enthusiasm. The idea of the exhibition spread, growing wings and momentum. By evening, when he arrived at the community center, a small crowd awaited him. The energy was palpable, infused with anticipation. Bob took a deep breath, ready to share what had brewed in his mind. But as he stood before everyone, he couldn't shake the question that hung like a weight above them: would their stories truly be enough to change the minds of those in power? As he began to speak, he noticed Sarah in the crowd, her eyes glistening with newfound strength. Their voices mingled, weaving in and out of each other, each person contributing to their shared narrative. It was a moment of clarity, a simple truth shined amidst complexity. Here, together, they sparked a collective flame, but in the depths of his thoughts, a quiet fear resided: if this didn't work, what would it mean for them? As Bob shared ideas, one question echoed louder than the others: were they ready to gamble their hopes on a city that may not care? The room buzzed with the energy of potential, but now it also masked a deeper uncertainty. The foundation felt rocky beneath them as hope and anxiety intertwined. Just as he contemplated addressing that lingering anxiety, a voice chimed in from the back. But what if we're not heard? It hung in the air. And as Bob turned to meet those expectant eyes, a chill ran down his spine, for this moment was only the beginning of their fight. Would they forge ahead together, or crumble under the weight of their own fears? The community center buzzed with an electric tension, each face illuminated by flickering hopes and swirling uncertainties. Bob stood at the front, heart racing, ready to share his idea with the group gathered before him. He took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of their collective support, but the weight of doubt hung over him like a storm cloud. "Everyone," he began, almost shouting to pierce the silence, "we need to take a stand. Our stories have power, and we can use them to show the city who we are, what we mean to each other." Looking around, he saw nods and crinkled brows, emotions raw in the eyes of his neighbors. "What if we hosted an exhibition?" he proposed, feeling the words flow with a new sense of urgency. "We'll gather our stories, share our experiences, the laughter, the connections. Let us paint a picture of our community so vibrant they can't ignore it." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, excitement mixed with apprehension. Kelly raised her hand, her expression fierce. "I love that idea. We can create displays of our projects, showcase what we've built together. The ideas and activities we've started here have already changed lives." Bob caught sight of George, his longtime ally in the town, leaning forward, energy crackling around him. "We should hold a public meeting too. Invite city officials, show them our spirit firsthand." The crowd erupted into supportive chatter, and little by little, hope began to flicker brighter in the air, but then, a familiar voice cut through the noise, soft but commanding. "What if it isn't enough?" It was Claire, her expression a mixture of worry and determination. "What if they don't see the value in our stories? What if they just dismiss us?" The room grew still as her words sank in. Bob felt a tightening in his chest, a twinge of fear he thought he'd outwitted. Would their hearts be enough to sway the city? Support from the people was one thing, but support from power was another beast entirely, yet as he looked around the room, he saw the determination in his friends' faces, a sparkle of resolve lighting their eyes. "We have to believe it will be," he called out, finding conviction in the moment. "We can show them we belong to each other, that we're stronger together. We won't let fear define what we can do." Marilyn chimed in from the back, her presence a calming force. "Every great change starts with a step into the unknown. Think of how far we've come. We didn't think we could gather like this, and look where we are now. Our community is alive and thriving." Her voice soared with passion, igniting a fire in those present. A ripple of affirmations flowed back and forth. People began to share ideas how to frame stories, what kind of exhibits to showcase, and how to invite others into their community. Bob felt lighter, buoyed by the excitement rushing through the small gathering. As the night pressed on, stories flowed like a river, each tale painting a picture, revealing how deeply their lives intertwined. Neighbors opened up about loss, triumph, and the healing power of connection. They bonded over the vulnerabilities that gave birth to resilience. By the end of the evening, Bob stood amazed. The very act of being together transformed something once weighed down by fear into a beacon of hope. They collectively mapped out plans, a timeline for their exhibition, potential locations, and how to reach out to the necessary people, including the officials who might help or hinder them, but the following day came with unforeseen challenges. The group gathered again under the sweltering sun to plan. A flurry of emotions brewed, fear nipped at their heels, uncertainty danced around them, and yet, hope remained a thread binding them together. As they dug deeper into preparation, not everyone could hide their nerves. Tension flickered beneath the surface with some dissent about potential outcomes. Bob felt the knot in his stomach twist tighter. He addressed the group, voice steady but concerned. If we can stay united, even when the storm clouds gather, we can withstand anything. And their plans took shape. They collaborated on signs, organized committees, and spread word through every corner they could reach. Each day they met, they fortified a bond that echoed past mere woodworking and laughter. It pulsed with the heart of a community willing to fight for each other and the future they dreamed of. Then came the fateful day of the exhibition. Bob stood outside the community center, feeling the thrill of anticipation. Colorful displays greeted curious visitors, showcasing heartfelt stories, woodworking projects, and moments of joy. The walls bore witness to their struggles, their victories, and the collective heartache woven through their laughter. As people arrived, gathering in clusters, awe spread across their faces. Bob watched as parents lifted their children to see the wooden masterpieces, while neighbors discussed the beauty of every shared moment. Word spread quickly, drawing people in from all walks of life. Their town embraced an unexpected closeness that only a shared purpose could foster, and when city officials arrived, Bob felt both hope and fear rise in his chest. But he stepped forward, determined. "Welcome. We're here to share our stories with you." The room fell silent, anticipation hanging in the air thick like fog. As every person shared their narratives, something extraordinary occurred. The officials listened. They saw the connections, the love, the light shining through every word. With each heartfelt story, the power of their community blossomed into a visible force. Bob felt the raw energy ripple through the crowd. It shifted from fear and doubt to a fervent belief that they could change perceptions and make a difference together. And sure enough, after the final tale was told, the warmth in the room simmered. One of the officials stood up, glancing around the vibrant gathering. "You have something remarkable here. We need to support this spirit, this connection. We'll work together to find how these shared stories can inspire initiatives that benefit the entire community." The applause erupted, echoing like thunder, shaking down the barriers they feared. As joyful tears welled in Bob's eyes, he looked around at his neighbors, friends, and newfound family. A sense of freedom enveloped him, and the storm clouds he had once feared had dissipated under the bright sun of their resolve. That day marked an unimaginable transition, as they stepped into a new beginning, not just as a woodworking shop but as a vibrant, united community. Bob realized that fear and uncertainty were simply part of the journey. Each twist and turn had solidified their bond like the strongest wood. Together, they had built something better than any factory could offer, a home forged in stories, strength, and an unwavering collective heart. From that moment forward, each day became a new chapter, vibrant with possibilities as they continued to transform their community, together. Now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel for more exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like right now to help grow our community and feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible journey, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support is what fuels our fire.